Hey everyone, this is Peter Hall for the channel Non-PC Pete. I'm going to do a reading of animals that can change their sex. Human beings are not on that list. What animals can change their sex? Most common pets are either male or female for their entire lives, but a few animal species are capable of changing from one sex to the other, as explained by David J. Alsop and Stuart A. West in a 2003 issue of Nature. Sex changes occur in several taxonomic groups, including fish, echinoderms, crustaceans, mollusks, and polychaete worms. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Since 2003, scientists have documented the phenomenon in several other animals, including a few amphibian and reptile species, and determinate invertebrates. Although not common pets, water fleas, flatworms, limpets, and several other invertebrate species are capable of changing sex. However, at least one type of commonly kept starfish, the cushion star, changes sex as part of its normal life cycle. Members of these species begin life as females, mature and breed for a brief time, and then become male. Flexible fish. Scientists have documented the sex-changing abilities of several fish species, including parrotfish, clownfish, and some gobies. Most species capable of changing sex transition from female to male, a pattern called protogeny. However, the opposite pattern, prototandry, occurs in a handful of species. In most cases, fish change sexes in response to social circumstances. For example, if a male blue-banded goby dies, one of his female harem members may become a male and take over his duties. Altered amphibians. Several frog species can change from one sex to the other. Some do so in response to environmental factors, while others change for social reasons. As revealed in 1998 issue of Environmental Health Perspectives, a team of researchers led by A.L. Reeder of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign found that polluted habitats may cause northern cricket frogs to change sex. Salamanders exhibit sex-changing abilities as well, as demonstrated by crested newt larvae, who may change sex if exposed to temperature extremes. By contrast, African reed frogs occasionally change sex in response to social conditions, as explained by researchers T.U. Grafe and K.E. Linsenmar in a 1989 issue of Copia. Some female reed frogs become male when housed in tanks composed entirely of females. Reversible reptiles. Researchers with the University of Canberra, Australia, and the Australian National University of Canberra investigated the effects of high incubation temperatures on bearded dragon eggs, publishing their results in a 2007 issue of Science. The team found that despite the fact that bearded dragons are thought to become male or female based on their genes, most bearded dragon eggs incubated between 93.2 degrees and 96.8 degrees Fahrenheit yielded female lizards. This occurred despite the fact that some of these females had genes that should make them male. Although they do not become genetic males, some female birds may develop male traits, such as male plumage, combs, or wattles. However, unlike many other animals who change gender in response to environmental or social stimuli, birds appear to change sex because of disease or dysfunction. Female birds typically have a single functional ovary. The other ovary ceases development early in life. If the functional ovary, typically the left ovary, becomes damaged or fails to work properly, the dormant one becomes active. However, this dormant ovary occasionally functions as a testes, produces male sex hormones, and causes the female to develop male traits. Okay. Let's read something else about it. Sex change. Sex change is a process by which a person or animal changes sex. that is, by which female sexual characteristics are substituted for male ones or vice versa. Human beings cannot naturally change sex. Sex change may occur naturally, as in the case of the sequential hermaphroditism observed in some species. Most commonly, however, the term is used for sex reassignment surgery, bullshit, including sex reassignment surgery. Most commonly, however, the term is used for sex reassignment therapy, including sex reassignment surgery, carried out on humans. It's also sometimes used for the medical procedures applied to intersex people. The term may be applied to the broader process of changing gender role, living as a woman instead of living as a man or vice versa, including but not necessarily limited to medical procedures. The only people that are truly transgender are people who are naturally born that way, but that is because of a genetic mutation. It is not natural. Natural sex change in animals. Some species exhibit sequential hermaphrodism. In these species, such as many species of coral reef fishes, sex change is a normal anatomical process. Clownfish, wrasses, moray eels, gobies, and other fish species are known to change sex, including reproductive functions. A school of clownfish is always built into a hierarchy with a female fish at the top. When she dies, the most dominant male changes sex and takes her place. In the wrasses, the family Labridae, sex changes from male to male, with the largest female of the harem changing into a male and taking over the harem upon the disappearance of the previous dominant male. Natural sex change in both directions has also been reported in mushroom corals. This is posited to take place in response to environmental or energetic constraints and to improve the organism's evolutionary fitness. Similar phenomena are observed in some dioecious plants. Chickens can sometimes undergo natural sex changes. Normally, female chickens have just one functional ovary on their left side. Although two sex organs are present during the embryonic stage of all birds, once a chicken's female hormones come into effect, it typically develops only the left ovary. The right gonad, which is yet to be defined as an ovary, testes, or both, called an ovotestis, typically remains dormant. Certain medical conditions can cause the chicken's left ovary to regress. In the absence of a functional left ovary, the dormant right sex organ may begin to grow. If the activated right gonad is an ovotestis or testes, it will begin secreting androgens. The hen does not completely change into a rooster, however. This transition is limited to making the bird phenotypically male. The condition could also be caused by mycotoxins that can develop when animal feed is stored, and these have the same effect as synthetic hormones. In about 10% of cases, if eggs fertilized with male chromosomes are cooled by a few degrees for 3 days after laying, the relative activity of the sex hormones will favor development of female characteristics. The sex chromosomes work by coding for enzymes that affect the bird's development in the egg and during its life. The cooling will produce a chicken with a fully functioning and reproductively fertile female body type, even though the chicken is genetically male. In humans, several medical conditions can result in a natural sex change in humans, where the appearance at birth is somewhat, mostly, or completely of one sex, but changes over the course of a lifetime to being somewhat, mostly, or completely of the opposite sex. The overwhelming majority of natural sex changes are from a female appearance at birth to a male appearance after puberty, due to either 5-alpha reductase deficiency or 17-beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase deficiency. A relative handful of male to female changes have been reported, and the etiologies of these are not well understood. Genetic females with 2 X chromosomes with congenital adrenal hyperplasia lack an enzyme needed by the adrenal gland to make the hormones cortisol and aldosterone. Without these hormones, the body produces more androgens. This causes male sex characteristics to appear early or inappropriately. Genetic males with 1 X and 1 Y chromosome with androgen insensitivity syndrome are resistant to androgens. As a result, the person has some or all of the physical characteristics of a female despite having the genetic makeup of a male. The degree of sexual ambiguity varies widely in persons with complete and incomplete AIS. Incomplete AIS can include other disorders such as Reifenstein syndrome, which is associated with breast development in men. Okay. Humans are most commonly said to have a sex change when they undergo sex reassignment therapy. There's very few instances where this is appropriate. If you are genetically female, look like a woman, have all the necessary and properly developed sexual characteristics and organs and productive organs of a woman, or look like a man and have all the correct and properly functioning reproductive organs of a man, you cannot become a woman cannot become a man, and a fully grown and a man cannot become a woman. This is bullshit. Okay. Humans are most commonly said to have a sex change when they undergo sex reassignment therapy. That is a set of medical procedures undergone by transsexual people to alter their sexual characteristics from male to female or from female to male. The term may also refer specifically to sex reassignment surgery, which usually refers to genital surgery only. The term is also used for the medical procedures intersex people undergo or more often are subjected to as children. The term sex change is sometimes used for the whole process of changing gender role, living as a woman instead of living as a man or vice versa, not limited to medical procedures. This process is often much more important to transgender people than the medical procedures themselves. Although medically induced changes and surgeries may be needed to make a change of gender role possible, both socially and legally, they can also have a very significant impact on the person's well-being. Many people regard the term sex change as factually inaccurate. Sex in humans is usually determined by 4 factors: chromosomes, gonads, ovaries and/or testicles, hormone status, primary sex characteristics, sometimes also secondary sex characteristics. Not all of these factors can be changed, however. Chromosomes cannot be changed, okay? So if you're genetically male, you cannot become genetically female. Gonads can be removed but not replaced. Hormone status can be changed. Existing secondary sex characteristics can to some extent be changed. Existing ones, mostly through surgery, non-existing ones can be induced to grow through hormones, for example. Changing a male genital anatomy into a good or even excellent female appearance with functioning is complicated but entirely possible. Changing a female genital anatomy into an even reasonably male-appearing one, however, is extremely complicated and not successful very often. Function is always limited. Why anybody would want to change their sex is beyond me. If you want to change your sex, you have a body image disorder. It's a mental illness, okay? Stop demanding that society enable your mental illness. Gender reassignment is usually preceded by a period of feminization or masculinization. This is accomplished through hormone replacement therapy, where for those transitioning into female, estrogens and anti-androgens, and sometimes progestogens, are prescribed. For those transitioning to male, androgens are prescribed. The most common minimum waiting period for gender reassignment surgery is 2 years, as specified by the standards of care for the health of transsexual, transgender, and gender nonconforming people. Hormone replacement therapy is normally started after sufficient counseling and/or a period of living full-time in the target gender, typically for a minimum of 6 months. This waiting period may vary depending on local regulations and is sometimes non-existent. Many trans people become medical tourists, as gender reassignment surgery is typically less expensive, less regulated, and sometimes performed by much more experienced surgeries in countries such as Thailand. Okay, well, I'm done with that. So, only a few animals can naturally change their sex. And guess what? Did you notice that the less complex an organism is, the more readily it is able to change its sex? The more complex an animal is, the less readily it is able to change its sex. And a lot of animals only change sex or change their outward sexual appearance while maintaining their previous genetic makeup, sexual makeup. They only change their outward sexual appearance or whatever because of environmental factors. So, transgenderism is bullshit. Okay? It's fucking bullshit.